Mr. Bishop, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were boyfriend and girlfriend. You became pregnant. And you had the baby, but told him that you weren't prepared for motherhood.
That is correct.
So, he went through the Lamaze classes, is that right?
Correct, yes.
Took you to the doctor?
Actually, he only attended one Lamaze class.
One. And you were there when the baby was born?
Yes, that is correct.
And he helped you during your pregnancy?
There was a period of time when we did not speak, but yes, he was there for a short time.
And then he took the baby home from the hospital?
We both went home with him, correct?
That's incorrect.
Well, what happened?
Well, she was, I was staying with my parents because I turned my bedroom that I left into a baby room. It was totally baby room. My parents, she didn't have family. My parents brought her, and we all invited her over to the house because she was still unwell for like the next 3-4 days. So she stayed there for 2-3 days, and everyone took care of the baby. And then she went home from there. The baby stayed, a boy, yes, baby Adrian. And then he stayed with me, and she went back home.
Is that right?
That is correct.
And the baby stayed with you for about 8 or 9 months?
Correct, back and forth.
It wasn't a continual 8 or 9 months. He was back and forth between the both of us.
But he spent most of his time at your house?
Correct.
And then there came a time when you had a blood test?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Because you were seeking custody of the child?
Correct.
And the blood test showed that you were not the baby's biological father?
Yes.
Your lawsuit seeks damages in the amount of $5,000 for fraud, for the expenses of caring for this baby, which she took back the baby immediately after the blood test came back. Is that right?
That is correct.
Tell me what happened, sir, when Ms. Thornton told you that she was pregnant. It made you think that you were the father.
Well, we were at Denny's speaking, and this was 10 to 15 days approximately after the time we had been together. And she'd called and said she wanted to talk, wanted to meet. We went to Denny's, we spoke, and she said she was pregnant, and she was sure it was mine, undoubtedly.
Did you tell him that?
That is correct.
And from then, we had to decide on what we were going to do. At first, we were going to work on both keeping the baby and doing some type of arrangement where we both shared him back and forth. Then a few weeks later, she changed her mind and decided she was going to give him up for adoption. That's when I had spoke up and said, if he's a child and he's my child, that I can't let that happen. I was going to have him live with me full time, and she was upon her being able to visit. I just needed some notice. She didn't have a car at the time, so I said I would do some of the transporting. I ended up doing all of the transporting, at least 90% of it.
Who took care of the baby at home?
I did, my mother, and my girlfriend here. And they're both witnesses to that.
It wasn't a few weeks after when I decided I was going to give the baby up for adoption. It was approximately when I was about 6 months pregnant, and he and I were not speaking at the time, and I felt, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to take care of this kid? I don't have family, because I grew up in foster homes. I don't have anybody I can depend on. I don't have a car. I had a very good, stable job, but I didn't think that I could do it on my own. And then eventually, Corey and I were speaking again, and I told him what I was feeling. And he said that there's no way that he would let this child be adopted. And then that's when we decided. Corey had picked me up, and I went to dinner with him and his mother and the family at his mother's house. And we had discussed the baby living full-time with Corey and his mother, with me having visitation.
And you thought that that was a good arrangement and in your child's best interest?
That is correct. It was in the child's best interest.
Now, you told him that there was no question that he was the father.
There was no question in my mind.
Well, but you found if there was no question in your mind, then these blood tests were wrong.
Actually, when I got the blood test, I called the hospital screaming and yelling. But I did bring my calendar from the year of that date, and it shows when I went to the doctor and found out I was 4 weeks pregnant. And if you count 4 weeks back, it shows exactly to the day that when I was with Corey.
This is a very lame defense, bringing your calendar to defend paternity fraud. Oh gosh, rather than just take accountability, you're trying to maneuver your way around the case. Well, let's continue.
But you clearly were with someone else based upon the blood test around that time.
It was actually, if you look at the calendar, I was with somebody else 2 weeks before I was with Corey.
Well, that's a pretty close time frame. Why didn't you tell him? I believe it's yours.
I told him I believe this is your child. I went to the doctor. I found out I was 4 weeks pregnant. We were together on this date. I had my period this date.
The question is, did you ask her if she was with somebody else?
I asked her several times, Your Honor, if she had been with anyone else. And undoubtedly, again, she agreed that she had not been and that the child was definitely mine. And she was feeling hurt from me asking. And I had asked several times throughout the pregnancy because it's a lot of trauma to go through, what you go through to prepare for a baby's room and for a baby and whatnot, being single and a father. So yes, I asked her several times because this was a big step for me.
You can imagine the gaslighting. He was even asking to confirm the paternity status of the child, but she was gaslighting him by making him feel that he's doing the wrong thing to even ask about the paternity of the child. You can imagine that level of gaslighting. And in court, rather than acknowledge her wrongs and try to make amends, she's trying to put up some defense, a very lame one at that.
And she said that you were the only one she had been with.
Undoubtedly.
I didn't say that he was the only one. I said I was sure that he was the one that was the father. I never said he was the only one I was with.
Your Honor, I believe I was manipulated into rearing this child for her to get her. I mean, I went through the rough parts. I mean, I was there through the really, really hardships, and I believe that's where I was manipulated.
Well, you were there
Why
too.
would I manipulate him? What did I get out of this?
You were there too, Miss Thornton.
I received no money.
You're the child's mother.
That's correct. If I manipulated him, it would be to get him in a marriage, to get some money out of him or some property. I received nothing from this gentleman.
Let me ask you this question. You think, according to your answer, you say that you are sorry for what happened.
I'm deeply sorry.
And that you think that at most you owe him little less than $200 for some of the doctor's visits that he took you to, that he paid for, that you don't feel as if you owe him any amount of money for emotional distress or for fraud. Is that correct?
Well, to prove fraud, you have to prove malicious intent to harm another. I never intended to hurt this man.
What you did was put this man through 8 or 9 months of falling in love with a baby and then taking him away. And you could have prevented that because you were not honest with him. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000 as requested. Thank you.
What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comment section. All right, see you on the next video.